America, we got to get back to doing what's expected of us as free citizens in this democracy. That means being tolerant, being respectful, staying informed, and being engaged. I'm former Congressman Joe Walsh. Follow me here and join the millions of Americans who are renewing their social contract with each other. The social contract, it's on us. Welcome, everybody. Come on in. Come on in. I want to introduce David Pepper here in a second. Come on in. Press those hearts. Joe Walsh with you. It's Wednesday night. It's Wednesday night, 7 o'clock on the East Coast. I can't wait to have this conversation with one of the smartest political minds I know around these days, David Pepper. He's an Ohioan, longtime Democratic activist. By the way, author of, did I see there's a second edition of Saving Democracy?
Yeah, it's right over my shoulder here. It's the second edition. I put it out about a month ago.
Awesome.
It's sort of updated with all the crazy new challenges of the Trump era.
Fantastic. Everybody, it's a great book. It's called Saving Democracy, a User's Manual.
Right.
Get your hands on that. And I'll say this a couple times over the next 30 minutes. If you're subscribed to me, make sure you're subscribed to David right here on Substack as well. David Pepper, my friend, thanks for taking some time. I want to start with your state of Ohio.
Okay.
And I say this as former Tea Party guy. I've been a Democrat now for 2 months.
I know. Way to go. It's all better now, right?
It's all better. Yeah. But man, you got great Democratic news in the state of Ohio. Sherrod Brown, way to go. Tell me what you think.
We did. I think it is great news. He overperformed by 8 points in 2024. Ohio is quite a different state when Trump isn't on the ballot. It's typically been closer, just like it was, Sherrod won by 7 in 2018, midterm when Trump was in the White House. So that overperformance, especially when, now his opponent, a guy named John Husted, voted for everything that's causing trouble in the country, Medicaid cuts, SNAP cuts, he's doing nothing about the tariff spiking costs. So I think Sherrod, again, a dramatic overperformance, same guy he always was. That's why he does overperform. Sorry, I got a call there for a second.
That's okay.
So I think it's a good race. I think it's Ohio. It's going to be a toss-up, but I actually think it's great for Ohio Democrats because the other thing it does, I'm a big fan of the candidate running for governor. Her name is Amy Acton. She has the highest job approval rating in the state of Ohio of anybody.
Wow.
Which a recent poll, literally, this was a poll where Trump, the voters told us in the poll they voted for Trump by 13. But she's sort of this much less political figure, a doctor, not a politician.
Wow.
She sort of worked to save lives. She gets a lot of credit for that. And all of a sudden you have her running with her lane and constituency, which is beyond party. You have Sherrod running. All of a sudden, I believe we have our best potential ticket since 2006, which is when we flipped Ohio with Ted Strickland and Sherrod Brown. So that combination means that I think Ohio will be in play if we keep seeing the pushback energy. And I think we have honestly a shot to flip both top of the ticket seats.
Everybody tuning in right now, I started with David. I'm starting with him in his state of Ohio and then we'll get into the national stuff because the Sherrod Brown announcement, David, let me back up. Ohio, in your mind, Mr. Ohio, is it pretty much a solid red state now?
I would say, here's what I'd say. I think Obama made Americans think that Ohio was more of a swing state than it was. We've always been a little more red than Wisconsin and a little more red than Michigan. Obama, what he did in Ohio was truly special. But when I was a city council member in 01 to 05, and then I was a county commissioner, it's not like I was thinking, oh my gosh, we're this swing state. We hadn't had a governor in decades.
Yeah.
We always have had a senator. Often that's been the split. We had John Glenn, So we've had unique Democrats like John Glenn or Sherrod. They won the Senate race. But I think Ohio kind of was pushed a little bit more into a pure toss-up because of Obama than really where it fit. I think we're always a couple points to the right. So you have to have a really good candidate or a special year. And I think with Trump on the ballot, clearly we were more to the right. But I think in a normal year where Trump's not on the ballot, like we had in 18, Sherrod won by 7. We lost the governor's race by 3 against a household name, Mike DeWine. So I
Yeah.
think we're maybe a little bit to the right of that in a midterm coming up. But if we have a backlash the other way, yeah, Sherrod could win, and
What's
yeah,
up?
Dr. Acton could win, especially when one other thing, and I think you'll have lived this.
Yeah.
The Republicans that used to win Ohio were like George Voinovich
Yeah.
or Rob Portman. They weren't Vivek Ramaswamy. J.D. Vance did 20 points worse in 2022 than Mike DeWine did. So they're
Yeah.
embracing kind of the Mehmet Oz, Herschel Walker wing. In Ohio, that wing in a general election, I think, does a lot less well than that old George Voinovich wing. So I do think that to the extent the old established Republicans are gone, replaced by Vivek Ramaswamy, and again, Sherrod didn't win, but he overperformed against Bernie Moreno by 8. I think
Yeah.
that gives us also an opportunity, if we have good candidates, to move more to the center where that broad swath of Ohio voter is versus the far right guys like a Ramaswamy.
Well, David, that's such a great point, and I overlook the fact that J.D. Vance comes from your state, and again,
I'm
what a
glad you
fluke it
did.
is.
I'm sorry I even reminded everybody.
No, but then now I got to go there. So this guy now, who he just pisses me off. He's now the vice president. He's odds-on favored to be the nominee in 28, and yet, David, educate me. He still is not at all very popular in his state of Ohio, is he, Vance?
I think he would have really struggled for
Yeah,
reelection.
I
I
agree.
really do. This was sort of like how Pence was unpopular as governor of Indiana. By the way, I respect a lot of what Pence has been doing lately, so I don't want to criticize the guy,
Yeah,
but he was pretty unpopular as governor, and Trump kind of saved him. Vance was not a high flyer here. He based just the story on Vance is after law school, he went to California.
yeah.
He didn't come back here. And I'm from Ohio. I moved back here after law school. I came right back. I started working. He went to California.
Hmm.
He got famous writing a book.
Yeah,
He enriches himself out there. When he moves back to Ohio because he was already thinking about running for Senate, who does this? He wrote an op-ed in the New York Times announcing his return to Ohio. Like, who does that?
yeah,
And
yeah,
he made it sound like it was hardship duty, like it was a sacrifice. And the minute he won the Senate race, he bought a big house in Virginia and wasn't really seen much here.
yeah,
So this was a quick touch, like what's it called? A lily pad,
yeah.
bounces to DC. And I think he would have struggled because again, he only won by 6 when Mike DeWine won by 25 points.
I
And I
think
think that Vivek is a little bit in that category that these
yeah,
guys going far to the right give us a chance to be the ones more in the middle. One other thing on this.
yeah.
The Republican Party, this is incredible. This is how
Hmm.
much they're embracing the far right. Jim Tressel was named lieutenant governor like 3 months ago. The Ohio State football legend Jim Tressel. 10 years ago, the Republican Party would have thrown anyone over the bus to get Jim Tressel to be their candidate.
Yeah.
In this case, they threw Jim Tressel under the bus to rush to endorse Vivek, which, as a general election matter, is a crazy decision. But they really are embracing the far right, and they're rejecting the old style, more moderate candidates that actually fared far better, including as recently as 2022.
I think voters around the country outside of Ohio forget everything you just said about J.D. Vance. And Tim Ryan, in a tough year, almost beat him. And I think you're right. J.D. Vance would have had a hard time getting reelected. And then Trump makes him VP. Go to Amy Acton and Vivek Ramaswamy. So there's no doubt in a good year, Sherrod Brown can easily win that Senate seat. And then he'd have to run again in 2 years, right?
He does. That's why it's such a big decision that he's doing this. This is a 26 and then 28. That's
Are you
That's
surprised, David? Are
that's
you
the big
surprised?
deal. I'm not surprised. I
Okay.
mean, he has such an established brand. He has all the infrastructure. I think he's raised $3 million in 24 hours. I think he's watching and saying, "I told you so,"
Yeah.
on all the stuff that's happening. And
Yeah.
here's the other thing: his opponent, and I don't know if you've ever come across this guy. He was one of the old establishment guys who now is pretending to be MAGA, and I
Oh,
don't think
yeah.
either side's impressed. Okay.
Yeah.
And John Husted, here's the problem. If you turn on HBO right now, there are multiple documentaries about how corrupt Ohio is, okay? We have a massive corruption problem. We got the Jim Jordan scandal, then we got this First Energy scandal. John Husted's been in office as before the Senate years, where he's already created a really toxic record on Medicaid and other
Yeah.
things.
Yeah.
But as lieutenant governor and speaker of the House and senator, Ohio senator, state senator, and secretary of state, not only is he a longtime, quote, career politician, his record is terrible, and he has exposure on each of the major fact patterns that led to the scandals.
Yeah.
And because he ran for lieutenant governor, he never faced any tough questions about these. Well, he's about to face them. So he was meeting with the CEO of First Energy, who has now been indicted, agreeing to name a regulator that CEO wanted, who also was a consultant and later was accused of bribery. That consultant regulator later committed suicide because of the scandal. John
Wow.
Husted made it happen. Like crazy scandals. Watch the HBO, you'll see it. We had a massive for-profit school scam. The electronic classroom of tomorrow, a for-profit flyer being paid millions, and it turns out to be a total scam. Total
Wow.
scam. John Husted received the first, quote, honorary degree of that school because, as they explained, if it weren't for him, it wouldn't have happened. So he's got a lot of issues in Ohio beyond the Senate stuff that I think are going to make it a very good environment to expose that this guy's been causing trouble in Ohio for a very, very long time.
Well, and just to put a top on that, David, I detest establishment Republicans who fake like they're MAGA. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, I almost have more respect for my former colleagues who are MAGA crazies.
Yeah.
So a last Ohio question for our listeners. Please tell me, in a good year, Vivek Ramaswamy can lose.
Yes. So this is the other really good news. This is why the ticket is so good. And
Yeah.
and I think the Acton-Brown combination is very complimentary. So Amy Acton, as I said, recent poll, the single highest job approval of anyone in Ohio.
Why is that, David? Why
Because
is that?
she stood with Governor DeWine
Okay.
and led us through a pandemic.
Yeah.
By the way, there's a lot of false narratives that that's a problem. Andy Beshear did better because he was seen as a stand-up leader during that time.
Yeah.
So did Gretchen. Well, she was like that, but she was actually more effective than anyone. Every day, the public watched her, and you know how hard it is to get noticed and to go out. Every day, a press conference that she and Mike DeWine and ironically John Husted had standing together was watched by millions of Ohioans. How do we stay alive? And she stood there in a non-political way and became this sort of cult hero. Like girls dressed up for Halloween as Amy Acton. Like there were T-shirts and yard signs, all organic.
Yeah.
So she built up this incredible goodwill. So again, even in a group of people that voted for Trump by 13, she had plus 10 job approval rating in that
Unbelievable.
group.
Unbelievable.
With independents way over water and a good deal of Republicans. So even though she's less known than Vivek, that goodwill has her already tied. So let's go to Vivek for a second. His negatives, and you would know this too from politics, normally you don't get negatives in the 40s unless someone spent $100 million saying you're horrible or worse.
Yeah.
Vivek did it all on his own. He is literally like the low 40s negative, high 30s very negative. And no one's even talked about how he made his billions with that, or $1 billion on that company where he claimed to have a cure for Alzheimer's, or all the crazy things he said. So he's actually very toxic already. And that's why I think now he's going to have a lot of money. We know that. And we got it. That's life these days. Musk had a lot in the Wisconsin Supreme Court race. we have to overcome it. But Vivek starts out in a very astoundingly negative for someone who's never really run before and who no one's ever really talked about their record before. So and here's the last thing. It's a doctor. Vivek could have had advantage against a usual politician as an outsider. But right now, a doctor and not a politician is a very strong brand, especially as RFK is scaring everybody. So this sort of less political, less partisan identity against a tech billionaire is a very good contrast. So all of that is why I think we can win both these races if we get excited and support these candidates.
Last question quickly on Ohio. Would you expect Trump to come in and campaign for him? And in a tough year for Republicans, would that matter?
I can't figure it out because remember, Vivek was fired from Doge because no one really liked him.
Yeah.
So that's part of why he's in the 40% plus negatives is whether it's that Republican primary stage or it's Doge, it seems that he just wears thin pretty quickly. So it's hard for me to know. I think this was a way to get him out of whatever he wanted to do in Washington. Trump has endorsed him. But, I think in these midterms, the lesson up to now has seemed to be that when Trump's not on the ballot, even when he endorses Mehmet Oz or Herschel Walker, it doesn't seem to spike the turnout in a way that and by the way, Vivek also, he seems to be just a really undisciplined candidate. I mean, he's tweeted crazy things about how American culture is broken, and if only we cheered less for foot. Imagine saying this in Ohio. We should revere the quarterback less. Like we should go to more math camps, no more sleepovers, stop watching Friends, cheer on Screech, and say stuff that you would say, oh, you tweeted that. You probably shouldn't run for anything in Ohio. He also moved his business from Ohio about 2 months to Texas. And this is why I don't think he was thinking about running for governor. Who moves their business and the workers from Ohio to Texas only months before launching for the governor of Ohio? It's just bizarre. So I actually think he seems to be a very mistake-prone, quick-talking, arrogant candidate. He's flying around on a jet. We saw from his first report, he's flying around on a jet to make stops that most of us are used to driving for an hour and a half. Part of the drive is how you get to know the state. And he's treating Ohio like flyover country. So I just think he's got a lot of problems as a candidate, despite the billions of dollars. I think Trump will probably want to help him, but I think we got to run a great race. I don't take it lightly. He's got a lot of advantages, but I also think he makes a lot of mistakes as a candidate we've already seen.
So nationally, and I say this as someone who's only been a Democrat for just over 2 months. So what do I know?
I love that, by the way.
David, isn't that wild? From the Tea Party to the Democratic Party.
I remember you from the old days.
You and I probably butted heads a bunch. But so I've got my ideas on what the party needs to do to win and defeat my former fascist political party. But this has been your bailiwick forever.
Yeah.
What are the Democratic Party's biggest problems in your eyes, and what do they need to do to win nationally?
I'm a big believer that we have to, and I think this is happening. We kind of stopped being a national party, and we stopped running in a lot of places. And I think not only did that make us look out of touch to the people in those places, which is huge swaths of Ohio and red parts of the country, but it also meant that we weren't in touch with the issues that those communities care about. We don't even know what those issues are. And once you start running in more places, then you figure out, actually, there's a hell of a campaign to be run about strong public schools in rural Ohio. Because those public schools are the heart of that community.
Yeah.
And there's no other school there. And if the State House or the Congress is diverting money in a way that undermines North Adams High School, where my wife went in a rural county, that's terrible politics for them. But if we're not running, we don't know it, and we're not saying it, so they're blaming it on something else besides their own decisions. So I think that it starts with running in more places. being a national party and not just a party running where you think you can win, but running everywhere, I think that makes you more in tune. I think it lets you communicate better. I obviously think it helps with turnout. And so, but I do think in the end, I was in Indiana the other day in Bloomington. I was actually thanking some of the people who showed up to protest J.D. Vance in the Indianapolis State House.
Cool.
Good for them.
Yeah.
But again, I asked, there was a woman running for a really hard red district in Indiana. And she said, I am trying to organize it. We run in all these red districts. And I said, well, I think that's wonderful. We need to do that. What are you running on? She said, public schools and the Medicaid cuts. And do you know what she also said that you like?
What?
And how much they've raised property taxes in this state, giving stuff away to the big corporations with no accountability.
Yeah.
That's the Democrat. Seeing that higher property taxes from an unaccountable state house is an issue for her to run on. And so I think running in more places makes us a national party and makes us far more in tune with the kind of everyday issues that people care about that often get lost in some of the national debates. So that's a lot of it. And I think it all flows, though, from a mindset of running in more places and being in tune with more places.
David, I think that's such a great point. I campaigned last year every day for 3 months in a battleground state for Kamala Harris. And whenever I would talk to folks like who you're talking about in rural America, they'd all say, give me a variation of, Joe, I know Trump's an asshole, but Joe, I know Trump's an asshole, but the Democrats look down on me. They dismiss me. They don't understand me. So this kind of like, he's a bad guy, but they're elitist. I heard variations of that everywhere. And it goes to your notion of connecting again with regular folk.
Yeah. And if you run in more places, and I'm above the record, I know the face of the party isn't just the faraway Democrat on TV.
Yeah,
it's the 25-year-old history teacher that everyone took. It's the retired firefighter. They're the face in that community. They're the ones saying, "Oh yeah, the reason you're paying $1,000 for your kid to play football isn't because of critical race theories taught in some law school 1,000 miles away. It's because the state house cut the budget to pay for some tax break at the top." And so you want credible, trusted leaders running who are carrying the message. As people said, every state may have different issues. You only tease those out if you're running in these places and running with enough, robustness that people know you're out there and working hard. And one of the things about this book behind my shoulder is I go through the shocking number until quite recently of uncontested races in America. 40 or 50% of Texas Republicans uncontested. So of course they're going to gerrymander. No one even runs against them after they do it. Other states have seen the benefit. Anderson Clayton, who I'm sure, new chair of North Carolina. North Carolina had a huge number of uncontested races in 22. She became chair. She's from rural North Carolina. She very quickly, and I was talked to her about it, and I was so happy when I heard it. She said, "Oh, we're going to run everywhere this year." Now, you don't run everywhere because you're going to win everywhere, but you're going to be more in tune. You're going to get turnout up. And not only did they end the supermajority of the Republicans in North Carolina's legislature, which was gerrymandered, Allison Riggs won a Supreme Court race by 700 votes.
Wow.
If the chairwoman had not reduced the number of uncontested races from like 35 to 2, Allison Riggs, I do not think would have won that race, because that would have helped all those candidates knocking on all those doors, would have lifted turnout. So I think we just have to get into this mindset that we're going to run in more places, and we become much better in so many ways if we do that, even if we end up losing in many of those races.
You probably saw, like I did this morning, that New York Times piece on voter registration, and in the 30 states where you've got to declare your party, Democratic Party registration the last 4 years, they've been hemorrhaging voters, and the Republican Party has been gaining voters in every single one of these 30 states. I just want to scream, because for a couple of reasons. I mean, I used to be a Republican. I do believe that party is a threat to democracy, the rule of law, basic human decency. But David, how do you explain the Democratic Party hemorrhaging voters in so many states.
That is I saw the headline. I haven't read the article yet,
Yeah.
but that is clearly a very sobering reality. And if you look at it, and I think you'll agree with this. Most of the bread and butter issues that Democrats talk about, I mentioned public schools, a middle class based economy, most other, is generally the majoritarian view.
Agreed.
So the fact that, and every poll will show you that, common sense gun reform, like most people support it. A woman's right to choose, like they voted for that in Missouri and Ohio by big numbers. So you got to do something really wrong if, despite the fact that on those issues where you have majority support, you're still losing people. So I don't know all the answers. I think we often, Sherrod Brown is a great example of this.
Yeah.
Okay, of how to do it right. When I was chair of the party, or I ran statewide twice, I would meet people all the time.
Yeah.
Who'd say to me, there's some issues Sherrod's more liberal than I'm on, and these would be Republicans. But I know he's fighting for me. I know what he's fighting for.
Yeah.
And I think the lesson is, I'm not telling Democrats to change their views on things. And some of those views, again, most of the views are popular, not unpopular. But the heart of what you're fighting for needs to be clear, that you're fighting for everyday people to get ahead, for the people. And so Sherrod Brown, what I would hear all the time is, because they knew that was his core.
Yeah.
If there was something else he didn't agree with, they didn't really care, because they're out there working a tough job, and he's for them, and he's for their pension, and they can take that to the bank. And so I think, to center what we're about, make it far more clear that it's about economic well-being and higher wages and respecting pensions. If that's the core, then I think other issues that may be less popular are less relevant to how they're voting. But if they don't sense that core, if they didn't think, well, Sherrod Brown's fighting for me, he doesn't know my party, I don't really care about his, he's for me. If that isn't there, then all the things the Republicans use to hit you over the head, that's all they know. And then all of a sudden they may go the other way. So I think centering it in this sort of base, and by the way, I hate the current facts on the ground, but when the other side is spiking costs, gutting Medicaid, I can take you to a food pantry in Adams County, about as red a county. This was, again, the one where my wife grew up. The food pantry is, there's a line out the door. They're getting grants cut. They're going to have more demand because of SNAP. If you can connect on those issues and show that you're the ones fighting on those bread and butter issues, then I think, and they see that clearly, then I think the things that people may not agree with, again, become much less central to how they're voting.
I think you're right.
In this coming election cycle, those problems, I think, are really setting in right now in a way that people see them. And so if we campaign well, I think they can see us as their champion. They can see us as their champions on those issues.
Completely agree. And I don't think it's a left middle thing. I mean, as a Democrat, I'd be called a centrist Democrat. Zoran Mamdani, I fully endorse, because I want a big tent. His politics may not be my politics, but we need it. We need it all. And what I like about Mamdani and AOC, even if I disagree with them on some issues, they are fighting. I want fighters.
Yeah. Yes.
I want fighters.
I could agree. One of the things I really worry about, and I write this in this book, if we talk a big game about how bad things are, but we don't fight hard, no one will believe that it's that bad. Because
that's
normal people, if there's a real threat, they do fight. So I like what the House Democrats from Texas did. If we really think something's, because I think there's the left and there's the right, and then there are a bunch of people in the middle who don't know who to believe. And they will judge partly, does that person's actions match their words about how bad things are? And so if we talk a big game but are acting like in the Congress like business as usual, they're like, oh, they're just being political. It's not that bad, because if it was that bad, they'd do something about it. And so I think the strength of the fight is not only important in its own right, it's a really important part of the message. It's a really important part of the message, because that's the strength of the fight shows you mean it. And maybe when you see those House Democrats leave Texas, you're like, this must be bad, because I've never seen anything like that in my life. They must really care about this, versus acting like everything's normal, which I think really undermines the message.
Do you, my longtime Democratic friend, do you worry? Maybe it doesn't matter. Do you worry that the party in recent years has lost a big swath of that middle?
I think we
Maybe
clearly
that's not
did
the
in
right
some cases,
question.
but we could. I don't think to the extent we did. I think it's not permanent.
Okay.
I think we can. I mean, again, look at the numbers I described with Amy Acton.
Yeah.
Independents in Ohio strongly liking the role she played. The same would be true on a poll for Sherrod Brown. So, you know, testing about D versus R could be alarming. But when you have candidates who show that those same independents in middle like them, I think it still shows you, oh, you can win them over with the right candidates. And in the end, I think that's how a lot of people are going to be choosing in the next couple of years, which are so essential. So, no, I think that they clearly have gone back and forth. Trump did grab a lot of them in Ohio, very
Yeah, he
clear.
did. Yeah, he did.
But I think some of those votes. But again, he won by 11. Sherrod only lost by 3. So
Yeah.
that's kind of that middle going for both. I don't think those voters are going to think John Hughes says much for them. Um, some of the Trump ones, even. As you said, he's a fake MAGA. They've never been that
Yeah.
into him. So
Yeah.
I think that middle is the kind of voter that could still easily vote for a Sherrod Brown or an Amy Acton a year from now.
Yeah, David, if you're a Democratic candidate for office in the midterms, anywhere in the country, how do you balance the fact that Trump, every day he says and does 1,000 unconstitutional things, doesn't give a damn about the rule of law, on and on. He's openly corrupt. He's a threat to democracy. As a candidate, how much do you rail on all of that and talk about the price of eggs, affordability, and all the economic stuff as well?
I think it's whenever this is my sort of Ohio non-professional polling opinion. He's already doing very badly. But when Trump seems to fall, especially in the polls, it's after a moment where the authoritarianism seemed very obvious. You saw that with Abrego Garcia and the flights to El Salvador.
Yeah, yeah,
He was already doing badly. But the moment where immigration went underwater and the moment his polling fell further was when he seemed to be really crossing authoritarian lines.
yeah,
And that sort of happened also with LA.
yeah,
So I think the most important thing are these sort of bread and butter, I mean, the costs of things,
yeah,
healthcare. This election alone could be one of those issues if things that
yeah,
are happening continue. But I actually think that Americans seem to be to go to the broad middle,
yeah,
independence. I think the authoritarian look, the National Guard, I think the same thing will happen in
yeah,
DC.
yeah,
I think people are seeing, whoa, this is different. This is bad. And whenever there's a moment of that being especially intense, if you look back at it, because I've been kind of watching it, he falls a few points more. So I do think it's sort of it is an issue out there. I wouldn't run the heart of my campaign on it
yeah,
in most states. But I do think it is an extra thing that's bothering voters in a way that is hurting Trump. Now, maybe if he stops for 2 months, that won't be the case, and you better just focus on the other stuff. But the moments where he's truly looking problematic, which I hate to say it, is frankly all the time at this point,
yeah, yeah.
I think that's bothering a lot of Americans, including ones in the middle. And I think polls show that.
So, two final ones, my friend, and then I'll let you go get to your children. First day of school today, did I hear you
It
say?
was, yeah.
Whew. Gavin Newsom, Donald Trump sent troops to LA. Talk about a gift in Newsom's lap. And now this Texas redistricting thing, another gift in Newsom's lap. So he can look like the fighter.
Yeah.
Good thing. Good thing
Yeah, I
for
mean,
Newsom.
I think clearly, I think Trump, whoever runs to replace him, the person on our side who's going to do well is going to be a fighter.
Thank you.
And yeah. And by the way, let me give credit here for a second. The first fighters were everyday Americans who started getting pretty upset in January. And I want to
Yes.
give the protesters credit because I
Yes.
think they get now. Gavin Newsom was a fighter either way, but the first couple weeks of Congress, you didn't see a lot of fighting.
No.
And it was like, what is going on? Was there no plan to fight back? And so before we get to the political fighters, I want to talk to the everyday fighters who showed up no matter what. And I think those town
Amen.
halls and those
Amen.
protests
Yeah.
gave some steel in the spine of political leaders who initially didn't look like they were fighting that hard.
Exactly.
So I think the big push has given a lot more of the political leaders, not all, some were already fighting, but I think it's created a much bigger premium that, hey, if you're not out there fighting, those people concerned about democracy aren't that interested in what you're doing. You've got to be out
Completely
there
agree.
fighting. And obviously
Yeah.
Gavin Newsom right now, and Chris Murphy's done some great things.
Yeah.
Jasmine Crockett's out there. If you're not out there fighting, a lot of the Democrats they just don't think you really get the moment.
David, that's a perfect note to end on, and I love that. You said that at the beginning. If you're saying we're losing democracy and you're not fighting every day, then they don't believe you. And you said the 28 nominee, whoever he or she is, has to be a fighter. I love
Absolutely.
that. Everybody listening and following, please subscribe to David Pepper. By the way, get that book over his left shoulder, Saving Democracy, a User's Manual. Check it out. Subscribe to David right here on Substack. David, my friend, thank you. I enjoyed this.
Thank you. Me as well. Take care.
Thanks.
Thanks,
everybody. Be brave.
See you guys.
Thank you for listening. Remember to listen, share, and follow The Social Contract with Joe Walsh on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and everywhere great podcasts are found. And be sure to leave a 5-star review. This has been The Social Contract with Joe Walsh.